SMG, submachine guns, are some of the most popular weapons in first-person video games, let alone the COD franchise. You have the quick mobility, you have the close-range power. It makes them perfect for a fast-paced arcade shooter like Call of Duty and somebody who likes to rush right in. Now, certain COD games definitely played faster than others, but the SMG class, it's extremely popular in any game. But that doesn't mean they're always the best option. What is up, everybody? Chaos here. Welcome to the channel and welcome to another trip throughout COD history. Thank you for all the love on the channel lately. I hope you're enjoying the gaming news and the Call of Duty videos. Today, we are going to look at the worst submachine gun in every single entry from COD 4 all the way up to Modern Warfare 2. So you let me know which of these you thought was the absolute worst. Drop a like and let's get into it. Put on your time travel hats. We set them to 2007. COD 4. The Scorpion. Shouldn't be a shocker here. The Scorpion was one of your starting SMGs in COD 4, and the only way to put it is it was terrible. Zero reason to use this thing over your other starting weapons, and even after you leveled it up, it was still hot garbage. The damage, it wasn't there. The fire rate, it wasn't there. The iron sights, they were really, really bad. The magazine was 20 rounds on an SMG, plus the reload animation could not be canceled. Made it one of the most inconvenient guns ever put in a first-person shooter, if you ask me. It sucked, and it was easily the worst in the game. Before we move on, guys, if you get anything from G2A.com, use code CHAOS, get yourself some cash back. The link is at the top of the description. Now we move on to World at War. The Thompson. Now, I know, it's remembered as one of the most iconic weapons from the World War II era, and a lot of people have great memories with this version. I'm not saying it was bad, but it was the weakest of its class in World at War, despite how much fans loved it. You had the MP40. You had the PPSH. They both killed much faster than the Tommy, and the Type 100 was more accurate. It made it better for mid-range engagements. The Tommy was a decent weapon. It was on its own, but the simple fact that it was technically the weakest in the class gets it the spot on today's list. I like this gun as much as you guys, but we have to be honest with each other and ourselves in these videos. Speaking of honesty, Modern Warfare 2, the Mini Uzi. Now, it wasn't the worst Uzi in COD history, but it was not popular. It was not a popular choice in the multiplayer scheme of things, and it was certainly an underwhelming unlock. You had to grind pretty far to get your hands on this version of the Mini Uzi, and once you used it for a couple matches, you probably took your hands off of it. The fire rate was high, yes, but the damage was low and it kicked quite a bit. Put simply, it was basically useless in Modern Warfare 2 because it was outclassed by literally everything else in the SMG category, which made it a pretty weird choice for a late game unlock. I mean, I guess Infinity Ward got a kick out of stuff like that back then. So we move on. Black Ops 1. If you've watched this channel for a long, long time, you know I have a personal beef with this gun. The Uzi. It was an absolute crap show. It was. Many people still consider it to be the worst SMG in COD history. I'm on that bandwagon. Now, it did have a big default magazine. It did have a high rate of fire, but the recoil was bad. The damage was super, super low. The iron sights were arguably the worst in COD history as well. Despite having one of the fastest fire rates in the game, the Uzi was an awful pick because of its abysmal time to kill and extremely difficult recoil pattern. Easily one of the worst guns in the original Black Ops. I think it's a bottom 3 SMG in COD history. And the lineup and what we got in Black Ops in terms of offerings for SMGs was bad enough, and this one being at the bottom just tells you how bad it was. Modern Warfare 3. The MP5. Now, it's been a complete monster in its last few appearances, but back in 2011, it was a teddy bear. It debuted in COD 4. It was a very high-tier weapon. But the Modern Warfare 2 version, it scaled it back a little bit, but it was still viable. But then we arrive at Modern Warfare 3. It got hit hard with the nerf stick, and I don't really know why. The recoil was increased, the damage was reduced, and the range was completely erased. It gave it one of the worst times to kill in the entire game. The Modern Warfare 3 MP5, some would call it a disgrace to the gun's legacy, and it was hilariously outclassed by every other SMG in the game. Black Ops 2. I think we just talked about this in another video. The PDW-57. I debated on putting the Cheekum here, but at least that gun had a decent theoretical time to kill, even if it was a fart cannon, and I know I would have got raked over the coals by the Cheekum cheer squad. The PDW, on the other hand, was pure crap after it was hit with the nerf hammer after the first week. I still think Treyarch went too far with this patch. It was basically this game's equivalent of the P90. It featured a big magazine, low damage, and in return you got great spam potential. However, after a few weeks, I think, the original PDW was seen as too powerful, and Treyarch smashed the damage, they smashed the accuracy straight into the dirt. Today, It's bad. It has no redeeming qualities. Back in my day, it was absolutely amazing. But Treyarch apparently had other plans for it. Call of Duty Ghosts. The CBJMS. Do not swear by this gun in the comment section. It won't do any good. Ghost is one of those games where my opinions change weekly. Previously, I put the K7 at this spot on the list, but at least that gun had a built-in suppressor. The CBJ was seen by many as the worst SMG in the game, and I think most people may have been onto something. I can admit when I'm wrong. It fired quickly, 1,000 rounds per minute, but it also needed 6 shots to kill in a game like COD Ghost. That was not a trait you wanted to have your gun on your gun. Up close, the time to kill was average, but at mid-range and longer, it was borderline useless because of how awful the time it was to kill was compared to everything else in the game. Now, let's be real with each other. Unless you were using the Vector or the MTAR-X, you probably weren't even running an SMG in COD Ghost. Don't lie, you weren't. Advanced Warfare. The AMR-9. A 5-round burst SMG sounded like the freaking coolest thing in the world back in 2014. Now, it's like something, it wouldn't be very surprising in COD, but back then this was wild. Now granted, this was a year after COD Ghost, but still, the AMR-9, it had a fan club before the game ever came out. I was in that fan club. I was a registered member. But once we used it, the fan club, well, it immediately got disbanded. It was bad. A burst rifle SMG is hard enough to use on its own, but a 5-round burst meant there was more pressure in every pull of the trigger to hit your shots, or else you would be left out in the open to die. This gun just wasn't powerful enough to justify how accurate you needed to be in order to use it properly. It wasn't the worst SMG in COD history, but it was pretty terrible compared to everything else in Advanced Warfare. Black Ops 3. The HG-40. Black Ops 3 had a pretty solid gun balance before the DLC weapons were added to the mix. I know the Brechi was annoying, but almost every other gun in the game was viable against everything else. Unfortunately, the DLC weapons added to supply drops, they threw that out of whack. They added weapons that were either top tier or bottom tier. The HD-40 was the futuristic version of the iconic MP40, but with all the damage deleted. You remember trying to get this out of supply drops, getting so excited, and then you used it, and your heart just broke? It was slow, it was inaccurate, it was a hit marker machine, and the original version of the HD-40 was bad. It was a total ripoff if you pulled it from a supply drop. It was later buffed a bit, but even after the patches, it's the worst SMG in the game by a landslide. Infinite Warfare. The FHR-40. I always try to make fun of this gun because it's a perfect example of how boring some of the original COD gun names are. It was a futuristic P90. Despite having unlimited potential, Infinity Ward gave it the most boring name known to man, the FHR-40. On top of being boring, it wasn't very good. Super fast fire rate, big magazine, but the damage was pitifully low, meaning the time to kill was actually one of the longer ones in this game. It also kicked really high, so there was no reason to use it over any other SMG in the game. Futuristic P90 sounds cool, but instead, we got the FHR-40. COD World War II. The M38. Previously talked about how awful the WWII was in this game, but going back to COD World War II after the DLC and seeing how the game plays in its current state, I had to ask one question. What is the point of the M38? It was an SMG added as part of the Operation Shamrock and Awe community event, if you remember those, and while it was fun to have a new weapon at our disposal, I think the hype made people forget that it was literally just a bad version of the PPSH-41. The fire rate was identical, the reload animation is literally identical, and the recoil is higher. Yeah, higher than the PPSH. It really felt like a reskin of it, but without the great accuracy and the clean iron sights, so why would you ever use it? You wouldn't. Black Ops 4. The MX-9, not to be confused with the MX-9 in Modern Warfare 2 2022. This one was your starting SMG in BO4 that everybody used, but nobody liked it. It was your starting SMG in Black Ops 4. I mean, since there weren't many attachments available, it was quite the grindable gun. But something about the MX-9 just wasn't as good as the rest of the SMGs available. The damage wasn't good, the fire rate wasn't good, the iron sights weren't very good. It was an average weapon at best, and that's hard to remember anything special about it. Every gun in Black Ops 4 had a certain situation where it shined, but the MX-9, it was just average. Modern Warfare 2019. The Striker 45. Now, the UMP is one of my favorite SMGs back in the day. The Modern Warfare 2 version was top tier, and the Modern Warfare 3 version was underrated, but I never thought it would get this bad. The fall from grace was hard, fast, and long. The Striker 45 is the new Modern Warfare's universe version of the UMP, but it does not live up to the legacy. Slow, bouncy, clunky, extremely weak. If I could think of any other adjectives to put with it in a negative manner, I would. Why is the magazine only 25 rounds? It was bad. Everything it could do, the other SMGs could do better. Black Ops Cold War. The KSP-45. Some people swear by burst weapons, but the rest of us, we just don't get it. It was a burst fire SMG, had decent damage per bullet, but the slow rate of fire killed all the potential it had. Black Ops Cold War also had a slightly longer time to kill than most recent COD games. While it wasn't super long, it was long enough to make a weapon like this feel really, really weak. You wouldn't very often get one burst kills, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of using a burst fire weapon for a lot of people. I know there was a bit of a fan club, but I wasn't part of it. Call of Duty Vanguard. The Sten. Iconic weapon. It's appeared in a ton of Call of Duty games, but you rarely saw it in its most recent form. It was a pea shooter. Actually had quite a bit of recoil when you unlocked it, which kind of defeats the purpose of using a pea shooter in COD multiplayer. If it was a laser beam, I could understand the low damage, but the Sten didn't kill very quickly, and it had some noticeable recoil. On top of that, the gun model was very obstructive, making certain attachments a necessity just to help the visibility. Just wasn't worth using in COD Vanguard. Easily the worst version of the gun in COD history. And now we've arrived in Modern Warfare 2. I'm going to go with the MX-9, not to be confused with the MX-9 from Black Ops 4. The MX-9 in Modern Warfare 2 is the SMG variant of the classic AUG, but without pretty much all the AUG's usual positive traits. Modern Warfare 2019 also had an SMG version of the AUG, but the gunsmith allowed you to kit it into an assault rifle or even a compact LMG. Modern Warfare 2, on the other hand, doesn't really let you do that because it also has the AR and LMG versions of the AUG on the weapon list. The AUG in Modern Warfare 2019 was a very versatile gun despite its flaws, but the Modern Warfare 2 version, it just has the flaws without the versatility. In the grand scheme of things, Modern Warfare 2's weapon balance is pretty solid, I think, but the MX-9 could probably use a buff in the near future. And there you have it. To me, that's the worst SMG in every single Call of Duty. Let me know where you agree, let me know where you disagree, and I'll see you soon.